Welcome to After the Spotlight. Seinfeld made ordinary life feel endlessly complicated. A bad date, an awkward conversation, or one broken social rule could become an entire crisis inside Jerry's apartment or Monk's cafe. But while those familiar rooms remained unchanged in reruns, the people behind them moved through controversy, reinvention, quieter lives, and painful goodbyes. Some became even more successful after the series, while others disappeared from the spotlight. Today, we remember the cast and what happened after the final conversation ended. Jerry Seinfeld was 35 when he portrayed a fictionalized version of himself, the detached comedian who observed everyone's flaws while rarely questioning his own. Seinfeld gave Jerry calm timing and enough emotional distance to become the center around which everyone else's disasters could orbit. After the series, he remained one of comedy's most recognizable figures, continuing stand-up and projects closely connected to observational humor. In 2026, he is 72. Jerry remains memorable because he could understand every ridiculous behavior around him, except the selfish habits that made him part of the problem. Michael Richards was 40 when he portrayed Cosmo Kramer, the eccentric neighbor whose entrances, movements, and impossible schemes turned physical comedy into one of Seinfeld's signatures. Richards played Kramer with complete conviction, making even the strangest idea feel perfectly logical inside his mind. After a highly public controversy changed the direction of his career, Richards spent long periods away from the spotlight and maintained a much quieter public life. In 2026, he is 77. Kramer remains unforgettable because Richards made chaos look spontaneous while controlling every movement with extraordinary precision. Jason Alexander was 30 when he portrayed George Costanza, the anxious and insecure friend whose lies usually created the disasters he was desperately trying to avoid. Alexander gave George ego, panic, envy, and vulnerability, turning selfish behavior into something painfully recognizable. After Seinfeld, Alexander continued working across theater, television, film, directing, and public performance, building a career far beyond one sitcom. In 2026, he is 66. George remains universal because Alexander transformed humiliation into comedy and showed how easily fear of failure can become the very thing that creates it. Ruth Cohen was 62 when she began portraying Ruthie Cohen, the familiar cashier whose quiet presence helped turn Monk's Cafe into a believable neighborhood restaurant. While the main characters transformed ordinary meals into crises, Ruthie remained behind the counter as though she had already witnessed every possible version of their behavior. Cohen appeared throughout the series in more than 100 episodes before her death in 2008, at the age of 78. Ruthie remains one of Seinfeld's quiet treasures. The background face audiences often notice only after realizing she had been part of their memories all along. Wayne Knight was 37 when he portrayed Newman, the postal worker whose presence could immediately destroy Jerry's mood. Knight gave Newman grand confidence and wounded self-importance, treating every petty grievance as though it belonged inside an epic rivalry. After Seinfeld, Knight continued a long career across film, television, and voice acting, remaining a familiar character performer to several generations. In 2026, he is 71. Newman remains one of sitcom television's great irritants because Knight proved a villain needs no real evil, only resentment, ego, and absolute certainty that he has been wronged. Heidi Swedberg was 26 when she portrayed Susan Ross, the relatively reasonable woman whose engagement to George revealed just how unprepared he was for commitment. Swedberg made Susan calm enough that George's selfishness became even more obvious whenever he searched for another way out. After leaving the series, Swedberg moved away from the center of Hollywood and became increasingly involved with music. In 2026, she is 60. Susan remains connected to one of Seinfeld's darkest jokes, a normal person whose greatest mistake may have been entering George Costanza's world too deeply. Estelle Harris was 64 when she portrayed Estelle Costanza, George's mother, and the emotional storm that helped explain almost everything about him. Harris gave Estelle a voice filled with anxiety, accusation, frustration, and unmistakable affection, turning even minor family problems into emergencies. Her distinctive comic delivery remained familiar through television and voice acting long after Seinfeld. Harris died in 2022, just before her 94th birthday. Estelle remains unforgettable because she made parental worry enormous, the mother who loved George so loudly that nobody in the house could possibly ignore it. Jerry Stiller was 66 when he took over the role of Frank Costanza, the explosive father whose anger could transform dinner, clothing, money, or a forgotten grievance into open warfare. Stiller made Frank loud without making him empty, revealing pride and old disappointments beneath every outburst. His long comedy career extended far beyond Seinfeld, but Frank became one of his defining television characters. Stiller died in 2020 at the age of 92. Frank remains legendary because Stiller made rage feel joyful and somehow turned decades of family resentment into some of the show's biggest laughs. Liz Sheridan was 61 when she portrayed Helen Seinfeld, Jerry's protective mother, and the woman absolutely convinced that her son could never truly be the problem. Sheridan gave Helen warmth, worry, and a gentler form of family pressure than the chaos surrounding George's parents. Sheridan continued working across stage and television, though Helen became one of her most familiar roles. She died in 2022 at the age of 93. Helen remains comforting and suffocating in equal measure, the mother whose unconditional love always arrived with another question about whether Jerry was eating properly. John O'Hurley was 41 when he portrayed Jay Peterman, Elaine's employer, and a man capable of turning ordinary catalog copy into an epic adventure. O'Hurley gave Peterman theatrical language, dramatic pauses, and complete belief in his own mythology, making Elaine's impatience the perfect counterpoint. After Seinfeld, O'Hurley remained active through acting, hosting, writing, and voice work, his distinctive delivery becoming recognizable far beyond the role. In 2026, he is 71. Peterman remains unforgettable because O'Hurley could make absolute nonsense sound elegant, important, and strangely convincing. Barney Martin was 68 when he portrayed Morty Seinfeld, Jerry's stubborn father and a man capable of turning wallets, raincoats, condo politics, or money into matters of principle. Martin gave Morty pride and argumentative energy, while preserving the affection beneath his marriage to Helen. His career stretched across stage, film, and television before his death in 2005 at the age of 82. Morty remains a warmer version of Seinfeld family conflict, the father whose love rarely sounded sentimental, because it usually arrived through advice, complaints, and suspicion that somebody was overcharging him. Len Lesser was 69 when he portrayed Uncle Leo, the relative who could turn a friendly greeting into an emotional obligation, before Jerry found a way to escape. Lesser gave Leo pride, guilt, neediness, and complete disregard for personal boundaries, while somehow keeping his affection believable. Lesser worked for decades across television and film before his death in 2011, at the age of 88. Uncle Leo remains painfully familiar because he represents the relative who loves you sincerely, remembers every slight, and can make affection sound exactly like a complaint shouted across a crowded room. Richard Hurd was 62 when he portrayed Mr. Wilhelm, the Yankees executive whose serious authority gradually became almost as confused as George's professional life. Hurd kept Wilhelm completely straight-faced, making every strange instruction and misunderstanding funnier, because the office continued behaving as though everything were perfectly normal. Across his career, Hurd became a dependable supporting performer in film and television before his death in 2020 at the age of 87. Wilhelm remains memorable because Hurd made confusion sound authoritative. The boss who always seemed certain even when nobody knew exactly what was happening. Richard Fancy was 48 when he portrayed Mr. Lipman, Elaine's publishing boss, and a man repeatedly forced to discover how fragile professional dignity could become around her. Fancy gave Lipman controlled authority, allowing the absurdity to grow from the situations rather than from exaggerated performance. After Seinfeld, Fancy continued an extensive career through film and television, frequently portraying serious professionals and authority figures. In 2026, he is 83. Lipman remains one of the show's best workplace characters because he proved that no title or office could protect anyone from embarrassment in Seinfeld's world. Patrick Warburton was 30 when he portrayed David Puddy, Elaine's emotionally unreadable boyfriend whose stillness became one of the show's most effective comic weapons. Warburton gave Puddy short answers, strange habits, and a deep voice that made even ordinary statements sound final. After Seinfeld, Warburton built a successful career across television, film, and especially voice acting, where his distinctive delivery became instantly recognizable. In 2026, he is 61. Puddy remains memorable because Warburton discovered that sometimes doing less creates more. The man who barely reacted yet somehow became impossible to forget. Ian Abercrombie was 60 when he portrayed Justin Pitt, Elaine's eccentric employer, whose smallest preferences became enormous responsibilities for everyone around him. Abercrombie gave Pitt aristocratic precision and complete sincerity, making impossible demands feel perfectly reasonable from the character's perspective. His long career included decades of stage, film, and television work, before his death in 2012, at the age of 77. Mr. Pitt remains a beautifully controlled nightmare, the powerful boss who could turn something as ordinary as socks, food, or errands into an entire world of unnecessary difficulty. Steve Hittner was 35 when he portrayed Kenny Bania, the enthusiastic comedian who believed every joke was excellent and every interaction with Jerry was an invitation for friendship. Hittner gave Bania relentless optimism, making his inability to recognize irritation the source of his greatest comic power. After Seinfeld, Hittner continued working across television and film as a familiar character performer. In 2026, he is 66. Bania remains one of Jerry's greatest recurring annoyances because Hittner made ambition invasive. The man who never understood that everyone trying to leave might actually be trying to escape him. Danny Woodburn was 30 when he portrayed Mickey Abbott, Kramer's fiercely independent friend who refused to disappear beside his partner's enormous physical energy. Woodburn gave Mickey pride, impatience, loyalty, and enough anger to ensure the character was never treated as merely a sidekick. After Seinfeld, Woodburn continued acting while becoming active in disability rights advocacy, using his public voice beyond entertainment. In 2026, he is 62. Mickey remains important because Woodburn demanded that personality, not stature, drive the comedy, giving the character the same right to be difficult as everyone else. Bob Balaban was 47 when he portrayed Russell Dalrymple, the television executive whose professional composure gradually collapsed under his fascination with Elaine. Balaban kept Russell restrained, allowing the humor to emerge as a successful adult, slowly behaved less rationally, while desperately pretending he remained in control. Beyond Seinfeld, Balaban built a prolific career as an actor, director, and producer across film and television. In 2026, he is 80. Russell remains memorable because Balaban made emotional unraveling look respectable. The executive whose authority could survive television politics, but not his own desire. Julia Louis-Dreyfus was 29 when she portrayed Elaine Bennis, the intelligent and fiercely impatient friend who refused to become the reasonable woman surrounded by difficult men. Louis-Dreyfus gave Elaine competitiveness, selfishness, warmth, and explosive physical comedy without ever softening her to make her more likable. After Seinfeld, she escaped the shadow of an iconic sitcom role and built another acclaimed career across television and film. In 2026, she is 65. Elaine remains groundbreaking because Louis-Dreyfus made female sitcom chaos fearless, flawed, and completely independent of anyone else's story. Seinfeld was famously a show about nothing, yet the people who filled that world became unforgettable. Ruth Cohen, Estelle Harris, Jerry Stiller, Liz Sheridan, Barney Martin, Len Lesser, Richard Hurd, Ian Abercrombie, and others are now gone, while the surviving cast carries decades beyond those familiar apartments and cafe tables. Still, every rerun returns them to the same conversations, frustrations, and perfectly timed silences. Thank you for joining After the Spotlight, where we remember the people behind the laughter and what remained after the final joke.